Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us for Class 6, the last class of the current series of One Healthy World. I'm Dr. Josh Cullimore, the Director of Preventative Medicine at the Physicians Committee. And here again with me today is the President of the Physicians Committee, Dr. Neal Barnard. Dr. Barnard, we're at the end of the series already.
Congratulations to you, to everybody who's made this a wonderful success. This is just great to see what everyone has achieved together.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for everyone who has joined us for the last 6 weeks. Again, we have people from all over the world. We've got people from New York, from Oregon, from Arizona, from Tallahassee, where else? Hamburg. All over the world. So thank you so much for joining us. Really, really grateful that you're here. Today we have another fantastic program. Dr. Barnard will discuss foods for good brain health. Dr. Saray Stancic will discuss the link between nutrition and COVID-19 and give us her personal story. Dr. Hayley Tait and Chef Hayley will give us some cooking demonstrations of some delicious meal ideas. And Dr. Hana Kahleova will discuss foods for good hormonal health. Again, as previously, please put any nutrition questions in the Q&A box, and our registered dietitians will answer as many as they can. And again, please stick to general nutrition questions. We can't answer specific medical questions. So without further ado, I'd love for us to jump into the main content. I'm going to start with Dr. Barnard again. Dr. Barnard is the President of the Physicians Committee. He has written more than 100 scientific publications and 20 books, including Power Food for the Brain. And that's the topic you'll be talking to us about today. Is that right, Dr. Barnard?
Exactly right, Dr. Cullimore. Thank you very much. Okay, if I go ahead and share my screen.
Please do.
Here it comes. All right, I hope I did that correctly. If you were to make a list of all the diseases that you want never to have, at the top of that list is going to be Alzheimer's disease, because when you have Alzheimer's, you lose everyone, you lose everything that matters to you. Now, anybody can have a lapse. You can't forget, or you can't remember the name of an actor, a movie, a book, a word eludes you. But if it's happening every day, throughout the day, doctors call this mild cognitive impairment. But if it goes further, you have problems with learning and remembering, reasoning, visual spatial ability, that's can you draw a face or a clock? If you have problems with language or your personality changes, those 5 domains are what neurologists and psychiatrists look at in diagnosing Alzheimer's disease. You're going to say, well, I don't want that. But it's in part genetic. There is a gene, the ApoE epsilon 4 allele, or ApoE4. If you got it from one parent, your risk is tripled. If you got it from both, it's 10 to 15 times higher compared to people who don't have that allele. But it does look like, despite the genes, there's a lot we can do. And this evidence first came from Chicago. In 1993, the Chicago Health and Aging Project looked at the food habits of a large group of people. Some of them ate relatively little saturated fat, 13 grams a day. Others almost twice as much, 25 grams a day. And their Alzheimer's risk for the high saturated fat group was nearly double. Coincidence? Could there be something about bad fat that increases the risk of Alzheimer's? Well, researchers at Kaiser Permanente said, let's look at their cholesterol levels. And you got it. The more saturated fat you eat, the higher your cholesterol level is, and the higher your cholesterol level. Even midlife, the higher your risk of Alzheimer's later in life. What does this mean? What's bad for the heart? Bad for the brain too. Okay. Oh, no, but it's not just saturated fat and cholesterol. This is my rusty fry pan. That rust on an iron pan means it's oxidizing. Here's a penny. As the years go by, it oxidizes too. Iron and copper in foods will oxidize. That's right. You need a little bit of iron for carrying oxygen in your red blood cells. You need a little bit of copper for proper metabolism. But these metals oxidize, and as they do so, they produce free radicals that can damage your skin, your heart, your brain. So if you've got a cast iron fry pan and use it once every 2 months, no problem. If you're using it every day, get a non-stick or a stainless steel. If you've got copper pipes, run your water for 30 seconds before you drink it. Meat, liver, loads of iron, loads of copper, throw them away, don't eat them. Don't take vitamins, supplements that have iron and copper. Search for ones that doesn't have it. Aluminum appears to be a culprit too. While the scientists fight it out, avoid it. Vitamin E is protective. It's in spinach, it's in mangoes, but there's a lot of it in nuts. Nuts are fatty, we're minimizing them, but if you're having maybe no more than an ounce a day, it can give you vitamin E that's protective. So the Chicago researchers found that it is true that people with high vitamin E intake really do have some protection against Alzheimer's. So fruits, grains, legumes, vegetables, you knew they were healthy. They're healthy not just for the heart, also for the brain. Thanks a lot. Back to you, Dr. Cullimore.
Thank you very much, Dr. Barnard. Some really useful tips there. And now I have the great pleasure in introducing my colleague, Dr. Saray Stancic, who has been a fantastic host of our Spanish program of One Healthy World. Dr. Stancic is the Director of Medical Education for the Physicians Committee. She is triple board certified in internal medicine, infectious diseases, and lifestyle medicine, and has led clinical trials in the field of viral hepatitis and HIV. Dr. Stancic produced and starred in the documentary Code Blue, which demonstrates the power of nutrition and lifestyle medicine to address chronic disease, and is also the author of What's Missing from Medicine: 6 Lifestyle Changes to Overcome Chronic Illness. So welcome, Dr. Stancic.
Dr. Cullimore, thank you so much for inviting me to be part of One Healthy World. It's a great honor to join you today. I always like to begin my presentations with a personal introduction. I do have a somewhat of a challenging name, so we'll start there. My name is Saray Stancic, and I have been a physician for 29 years. By training, I am an internist and infectious disease specialist. But today, my focus is really delivering the importance of and power of plant-based nutrition. And I'm so proud to be the Director of Medical Education here at PCRM. I'm often asked, how is it that an infectious disease specialist has evolved into this passionate advocate for plant-based nutrition? And that's really fueled by my personal story. So I'd like to take a little bit of time today to share that with you. And for that, I'm going to take you back to October 11th, 1995. On this day, I was a third-year medical resident, and I was on call at Beth Israel Medical Center, and it was a really, really busy night. One of those nights where your pager just doesn't stop ringing. I was literally running from the ICU to the emergency room and back to the general ward all night. And it wasn't until sometime in the mid-morning hours where I finally had an opportunity to take a brief nap. I remember making my way to the on-call room and feeling so deeply fatigued, something I had never experienced before. The minute my head hit that pillow, lights out. Shortly thereafter, I was paged yet again to address another urgent matter. But this time, when I tried to get up out of that sleeping position, an extraordinary thing happened. I couldn't feel my legs. I remember reaching down to touch them, and they felt as if they were someone else's. Panic set in, and next thing I knew, I was in the emergency room undergoing an MRI of my brain and spinal cord. And those studies confirmed a diagnosis of multiple sclerosis with multiple lesions in both my brain and spinal cord. I was immediately admitted to the hospital, and my doctors joined me at the bedside. They told me at the time that I had a significant burden of disease, and it was imperative that I immediately start what they referred to as a disease-modifying therapy, or DMT. They told me this was the key to slowing the progression of this chronic neurologic disabling disorder, and without it, I'd likely be in a wheelchair within 10 to 20 years. I can tell you those are difficult words to hear when you're 28 years old. Of course, I was going to do whatever my doctors asked of me. They pulled me aside and they said to me, although this drug is quite effective, it's not going to be easy. This is a medication you're going to have to inject every day. And I said, for how long? And he said, for the rest of your life. He said, this is a drug that has a significant side effect profile that includes fever, chills, muscle aches and pains, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, anorexia, insomnia, injection site reactions, depression, and suicidal thoughts, to name a few. But he said, don't worry, because I know exactly what to do to reduce the likelihood that you'll ever experience any of those side effects. So my ears perked up. He said, you're going to do two things. 30 minutes before you inject the drug, you're going to pre-medicate with Tylenol or ibuprofen. And secondly, most importantly, you're going to inject the drug right before you go to bed. This way, you'll sleep through all those side effects. Ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you that not once did I sleep through those side effects. I would inject the drug at 10 o'clock at night, and at 2 o'clock in the morning, I would awaken with violent shaking, chills, fever, et cetera, et cetera. After doing this for a couple of weeks, I didn't think I could do it much longer, so I called him to let him know I was calling it quits. But before I could get a word in edgewise, he reminded me of the wheelchair. He said, listen, it's just not an option. I have a solution though. What we'll do is we'll treat the side effects of this drug with other drugs. So when I couldn't sleep at night, I was given a prescription for Ambien. When I couldn't wake up in the morning, I was given a prescription for Provigil, an amphetamine-like drug. And when I became depressed because my life was unraveling, I was given a prescription for Prozac. 8 years into the diagnosis, I was dependent on nearly a dozen drugs to get through a typical day. And despite all of these medications, my disease progressed. I found myself dependent on a cane or set of crutches, and frankly, began to lose hope. And then seemingly at what felt like the darkest moment came some light. And I call this my aha moment. At this point, I was chief of infectious diseases at the Hudson Valley VA in New York. I was sitting in my office doing some paperwork. And my secretary walked in to drop off the Daily Mail, as she would every day. But on this particular day, she dropped this stack. And on top of the stack, I saw a journal. And on the cover of that journal, I saw the words multiple sclerosis, and of all things, blueberries. And I thought to myself, what in the world could blueberries have to do with multiple sclerosis? So I dropped everything and picked up the journal. I turned to the study, and it was an unscientific, poorly constructed study that essentially took a group of MS patients and fed them a diet enriched in blueberries. The authors went on to conclude that those patients that consumed this plant-based blueberry-enriched diet reported feeling better, a little less fatigued. I thought to myself, I couldn't believe anyone had published such a paper. Could there be some truth to this? There was something about this little blueberry study that I couldn't get out of my head. And it wasn't that I thought eating blueberries was going to solve my problems. A much more important question surfaced from that line of thinking. For the first time in my adult life as this dual board certified attending physician, I considered the following question. Could there be a connection between diet and disease? Now, if anybody could answer that question, I think I'd be able to. I was a physician, right? 4 years of medical school, another 4 years of internal medicine residency, and then another 2 as a subspecialist. That was a decade of my life dedicated to higher education in the field of medicine. And I couldn't think of any examples in which one of my mentors, professors, or educators ever connected those 2 dots. But I remained curious. So I turned to the scientific literature. I went to PubMed and I typed in words like multiple sclerosis and diet and chronic disease and diet. And what I got back was nothing short of remarkable. And this was one of the first studies published in the New England Journal of Medicine in 1952 by this gentleman, Dr. Roy Swank. And in this publication, Dr. Swank writes about the incidence of MS in Norway, which, by the way, has one of the highest rates of MS in the world. And he notes, as he drills down, he looks at the specifics of what's happening in Norway, that the highest concentrations are occurring in the inner farming dairy community where they're consuming a lot of saturated fat. Dr. Swank hypothesized that somehow saturated fat was playing a role in the pathogenesis of multiple sclerosis. Now, he didn't just leave it at a hypothesis. He actually started treating MS patients with a low-fat plant-based diet, and in fact followed 264 patients over 20 years and published his data in the Annals of Neurology. But he didn't stop there. He followed this cohort an additional 14 years. At the end of it all, he was able to capture data on 144 patients over 34 years. And what did Dr. Swank conclude? Those who adhered to the diet showed significantly less morbidity and mortality. And of those that survived, 95% remained physically active. Those words, 95% remained physically active, jumped off the page to me. Could there be something to this? And it wasn't just Swank. There were several other publications, studies from Canada, from Europe, that aligned with this thinking. At some point, I read so much evidence that I was convinced I needed to implement changes in my own life. So in 2003, equipped with this mounting body of evidence, I implemented these important changes in my life. I adopted a whole food plant-based diet, rich in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds. I began to exercise. I addressed my stress and my sleep. And you know what happened? It didn't happen in a week or a month, but I started to feel better. At first, it was something as subtle as I could stay up past Jeopardy, or on a particular day, I would get to work and I felt confident enough to leave the cane in the car. There is one day that I remember well, because I'm often asked, how long did it take before you knew you had made the right decision? There is one day. July 2nd, 2005. This is about 2 years into my lifestyle change. And the reason I happen to have a photograph of it is because I attended a wedding. My friend Tim was married on this day, and I attended with my husband. I did 2 things on this day that will seem trivial and silly to you, but to me were a big deal. 2 things that I didn't think I'd ever be able to do again. I wore heels and I danced with my husband. Right around this time, a visitor, a friend, came to visit me, and she had introduced an idea. She was so happy to see that I was feeling well, that I was getting back to my baseline, and she suggested I might consider doing a little bit of running. She had recently run a marathon and shared the excitement of accomplishing that goal. So she planted the seed. And I can tell you, I went out without really telling anybody and tried to do a little bit of running. It didn't go so well. I'd fall, scrape my knee, heal up and try again. Long story short, I went from that young woman, dependent on a cane, a walker, to somebody who crossed the finish line on May 2nd, 2010, at the New Jersey Marathon. And it was an extraordinary moment for me, not because I ran a marathon, but because in that moment, I realized that these changes that I had implemented in my life had borne fruit. And today, it's been nearly 27 years since my diagnosis, and I'm medication-free, disability-free, and empowered more than ever before to share this very simple but powerful message. Thank you so much for allowing me to share that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saray. I've heard your story before, but every time it just really hits me. It's quite incredible. It's an amazing journey you've had, and yeah, so grateful for you. That you've had this amazing improvement, and that you're sharing that with us, and you're telling us that there is hope.
Thank you so much, Josh. I appreciate that.
Thank you. And I highly recommend your documentary, where people can find out in more detail about your journey. It's called Code Blue, and people can watch it at codebluedoc.com. Is that right?
Codebluedoc.com. Yes. Thank you.
And whilst you're here, as you're board certified in infectious disease, there's an infectious disease which is quite topical at the moment. I wondered if you could give us a bit of info on that.
Sure. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about the pandemic. Regrettably, we have been in the midst of this pandemic for now, it's hard to believe, it's been 2 years and a month. This publication summarized in the New England Journal of Medicine summarizes the first case of COVID-19 in the United States. And it was a case of a businessman who returned from Wuhan, China to Washington State. And you don't need me to recount all the details of what we've witnessed in the past 2 years. It's been an extraordinary time. But what we've learned is, importantly, how this coronavirus pandemic, this acute infectious contagion, has really intersected with this backdrop of this chronic disease epidemic. And we learned this very early on. In this report from the CDC, from the Morbidity and Mortality Report in June of 2020, we learned that if you had a chronic disease at the time you were infected with SARS-CoV-2, you were 6 times more likely to be hospitalized and 12 times more likely to die. This virus has really shed light on how vulnerable a community we are, not just in our country, but globally. We've witnessed significant mortality. As of today, we have lost nearly 980,000 souls here in the United States and almost 6 million globally. I want to talk a little bit about how nutrition is affecting outcomes in COVID-19. This is the COVID symptom study, which enrolled nearly 600,000 participants in the UK and in the United States. And they tracked symptoms via the smartphone. And what they found were nearly 32,000 individuals who developed COVID-19, and they were collecting diet-related food frequency questionnaires, so they were able to draw some conclusions. And here's importantly what they found. If you consumed a diet that was primarily plant-based or enriched in plant-based foods, you reduced your risk of developing any type of COVID-19 by 9%. And even more importantly, severe COVID-19, there was a 41% less risk in those that consumed a plant-based diet. An important study illustrating, again, the power of plant-based nutrition. Another study speaking to nutrition, this is a case control study published in 2021, the healthcare workers in 6 countries. And here they found 73% lower odds in those that consumed a primarily plant-based diet, lower odds of developing moderate to severe COVID-19. And interestingly, those that consumed a low carbohydrate, high protein diet could expect an increase of 48% increase in risk of moderate to severe COVID-19. In October of last year, we published this commentary in the American Journal of Medicine entitled Shoring Up Vaccine with my colleagues, Dr. Kahleova and Dr. Barnard. And here our hope was to shed light on an important measure that regrettably has been missed in public health messaging. We've done an extraordinary job at communicating the importance of infection control measures to manage this pandemic, like, of course, hand washing, masking, and maintaining 6 feet distance. And those are all very important and effective measures that have been effectively communicated to the public. And then the vaccine was made available, and we've done an extraordinary job at disseminating the vaccination effectively. But what we've missed throughout this public messaging with COVID-19 is the importance of addressing these chronic diseases. And we know the most important action that we can take is to address our nutrition. The standard American diet and our poor diet is certainly contributing to increased mortality in this pandemic. And we completed the commentary by offering some steps that we can take now. And we brought attention to the AMA's policy urging individuals that have these underlying health conditions like obesity, heart disease, diabetes, to address them to reduce risk of morbidity and mortality with COVID-19. Secondly, we emphasize the importance of medical practitioners referring patients to registered dietitians to get that all-important support to modify their diet, to improve their diet, to ensure that they can reduce their risk of COVID-19, and certainly if they do experience COVID-19, that they have better outcomes. And then finally, the importance of providing healthy environments in hospitals. Hospitals should be a teachable moment, and regrettably, that's not where we are today. So we hope that this commentary led to some discussion, and hopefully we can make some important changes in our healthcare setting so that we can connect these dots between diet and not only risk of COVID-19, but also outcomes. Thank you, Dr. Coleman.
Thank you so much, Dr. Stancic. And lots of people, by the way, in the chat saying, thanking you for sharing your amazing story. And someone said they loved your documentary, Code Blue, and they tell everyone they know to watch it. So thank you again. Okay, so now moving on to our next guest, I'm very happy to present Dr. Hayley Tait. She is an NHS GP or family physician based in Liverpool, UK, and an advisory board member for Plant-Based Health Professionals UK. She completed the certificate in plant-based nutrition from Winchester University. She has written a plant-based cookbook, Health on the Hob, which is also her Instagram name. She has appeared on the British TV cooking show Ready Steady Cook, which did an amazing job. And she's established a community plant-based cooking school, Vinnie's Kitchen, based in Liverpool, which gives food to the homeless. So thank you so much for joining us, Hayley. I understand you're going to give us a cooking demonstration.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks so much for the opportunity. It's great to be speaking to you from Liverpool. And yeah, I'm going to be doing a quick cooking demo. I'm going to do sauces, sandwiches, and snacks in 7 minutes. So I understand that there's lots of processed foods, and sometimes when we're really hungry, we want to grab for something. So I'm just going to show you how we can make some quick and easy meals that are nutritious, and they're great for going for lunches, they're great for kids. So let's get started. So first I'm going to make a barbecue sauce. So for this, I'm going to use a tomato puree, a hickory smoke sauce, and I think that's readily available in the, I think we came from America, a soy sauce, so that's your dark salty richness, some vinegar, and I'm just using an apple cider vinegar there, a spoon of paprika, and the tomato puree, and I'm just going to mix that up. And with that lovely barbecue sauce, one of the things that we eat or we hear a lot of is, you know, sort of slow roasted pork and things, but we know that that's so full of salt and fat and sugar and all bad things. So what I'm going to use in replacement for that is some jackfruit. So I've got a lovely tin of jackfruit. So again, it's easy, it's accessible, it can sit in the cupboard. And I've just grated this on a standard grater. And what you get with this is this sort of meaty-like fibres, but obviously none of the salt, fat and sugar. So you just tip that into the barbecue sauce. And if there's any tough strandy bits, then just chop them up with your knife. So that will make this delicious, like a slow roasted pork smell. So it's barbecue jackfruit. And to go with that, I'm going to make a quick slaw. Now, slaw ingredients is a mayonnaise, and again, high in fat, high in salt. And what we're going to do this with, it's a little bit like a cross and a ranch dressing. So I've got a plain yogurt, I've got soya yogurt, I've got the grated zest and juice of a lemon. Again, I've got some vinegar and some whole grain mustard, and I'm just going to stir that in. And I've got my grater out again. I've done a bit of prep. And I've got some grated carrots here, and I've soaked some onion. So I've got a chopped red onion, chop it finely. I don't particularly like raw onion, but if you soak it in cider vinegar, I can enjoy it like that. And I got a bit of red cabbage. So any sort of vegetables that are, you know, in the bottom of the fridge, just grate them up. You can make a slaw out of anything. So with those, I've got the homemade mayo, oops, that I've just splashed on myself. Pour that over. And this is going to make your slaw. So again, you're not using a heavy, you know, a heavy fatty mayonnaise. And you can see how easy and how simple this is, but you're creating delicious food. So, you know, this is going to go great with that. I call it pull your leg pork because it's obviously not pork, but it's jackfruit. So I'm going to fill a pitta. So I've got a pitta here, pop some of the barbecue jackfruit inside, and, you know, be generous with it. And then it'll be gorgeous with that crunchy slaw. So you're getting all those textural flavors, and pop them in. And then you top that with some greens. So I've got a choice here of spinach, maybe a little bit of plain lettuce. I've got some sprouts, and wrap that up. You can take that to work, put it in the kids' lunchbox for school. So I've got the mayo there, and I'm now going to make a quick, like a hummus, really, but super fast. So drain a tin of chickpeas. Again, it's in a tin, it's there, it's ready. Just drain it, rinse them, squash them up with a fork. Look how easy this is, super easy. And then to that, I'm going to add the juice and the rind of a lemon. Again, I love to use the zest of the lemon because it just brings out the flavor. I've got a spoon of tahini, so that's a sesame paste, you know, full of calcium, full of really healthy stuff. We've got some more paprika there. And then another thing to do to have in mind is I just half a garlic bulb, roast it in the oven, no oil again, just roast it, tiny bit of water. And then this lovely pulpy garlic pieces come out. I'm going to pop a little bit of salt and pepper in there because the chickpeas were in water, and mix that all together. So obviously you'd have a little bit more time than I've got because I want to get through a few dishes with you, but this would make a really simple hummus, and literally you can do that in 5 minutes. So, you know, I've got dogs, kids, so mornings can be, you know, awkward, or similarly coming in from the school rush, and, you know, you can just get them something healthy and easy instead of grabbing something sweet. So a bit of salad in this. I've got some lovely Chinese leaf lettuce. Again, maybe some sprouts. So there's another one. So same with the chickpeas. So we can make like a chickpea tuna. So to make a chickpea tuna, you've got your squashed chickpeas. You've got some of that lovely mayonnaise that you have made with just your simple yogurt. Zest again and juice of a lemon. And to get that tuna sort of seaweed, sea flavour, use seaweed and spring onions. And I'm also going to pop some nutritional yeast in there. So that's the that's full of B12. But really, you'll get that vibrancy of the lemon, a bit of vinegar. And you can either load this up on a sandwich, or what I like to do is, because people always go on about tuna pasta, is, you know, pop it on some pasta. And that would work. And you can pop that in a lunchbox. You know, if people don't like bread, that's a nice whole wheat macaroni. And you can serve that with a side salad as well. The other wrap, the last one I wanted to show you, is again like a black bean, but I really like this one because it's got this gorgeous salsa that goes with it. So if you've got a tortilla and you've squashed your black beans up, add a little bit of plain yogurt just to loosen it up, and some of that delicious roasted garlic, a good pinch of black pepper. And then you're making, again, another sandwich filling. So this is perfect. So wrap that up in the wrap. Pop that in your tortilla. And then we're going to make a quick salsa, super quick. So you've got a chopped sliced red onion, some pieces of tomato, gorgeous chili. I've zested the lime, some coriander, and a good slug of vinegar and lime juice. Again, a little bit of pepper and salt. And those flavors and smells are just absolutely delicious. So pile that up, pile some spinach in there, and wrap that up. So we're doing really well. We're now switching to sweet stuff. So the kids are starving, they're coming in, or you're going to the gym and you've got your, you want a little protein hit. So I make these bean balls. So this is a cannellini bean, chickpea, tahini, peanut butter. You can put vanilla essence in, you can put a bit of maple syrup in, and you can just wind that down, you know, as your taste buds adapt. And then roll the mix. So the mix comes out like this, and then roll the mix in a pumpkin and sunflower seed. And that's, you know, I call them bone balls because they're so full of calcium. Or it's like a cookie dough mix. So I've chopped that with, I've popped some 100% cacao buttons just chopped on top of that. So that's like a cookie dough with chocolate. The dates, just split the dates, remove the hard seed, and stuff them with peanut butter or a sesame butter or anything you wish. And then you can pop them in, dip them in, again, a dark chocolate. So everything can be served with all the salads. We could make with the grater. And yeah, and all the recipes are on, well, most of the recipes are or will be on the resources. So I hope you've enjoyed that quick whistle-stop tour.
Thank you so much, Hayley. That was fantastic. I'm definitely going to try those later. And yes, as you mentioned, the recipe will be on the resource portal, which is pcrm.org/OHW resources. Thank you so much again, Hayley. I'm definitely going to check out Vinny's Kitchen next time I'm back in the UK.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thanks, Josh. Bye.
Okay, so on to our next guest. I'm delighted to invite back Dr. Hana Kahleova. Dr. Hana Kahleova is the Director of Clinical Research at the Physicians Committee. She earned her doctorate in nutrition and diabetes and her medical degree from Charles University in Prague, Czech Republic. As an endocrinology specialist, we are very honored to have her speak to us today about nutrition and hormones. Over to you, Dr. Kahleova.
Thank you, Josh. Hi, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here with you. And we have such an exciting topic. So let me share my screen. Foods for hormonal health. It's also a broad topic. So, in just a couple of minutes, we cannot cover all the aspects, but we can tackle one. And for those of you who are interested in learning more about hormonal health, I would highly recommend Dr. Barnard's book, Your Body in Balance. If you don't have this book yet, you can order it on Amazon. Dr. Barnard was the principal investigator on several studies that were trying to tackle these topics, what to do for your hormonal balance, how can a diet affect your hormonal balance. And I will share with you the most recent study where he was the principal investigator and our team was working on this study for the last year. When women get older, around menopause and after menopause, many of them start experiencing hot flashes. These are the feelings that stop them, that let them stop working. They just need to take a break, take a deep breath. And these can be very annoying. In the United States, about 75 to 80% women experience these hot flashes on a regular basis. And now the question is, why is it so? How is it that these women experience hot flashes? The hot flashes are caused by the vasodilation, which means that the blood vessels just increase in their diameter. So if you can imagine the skin and the blood vessels there, normally the blood vessels would be just small. This is your skin. And then if they enlarge and the blood flow increases, this causes a lot of heat to be released through the skin, and this causes the hot flashes. And now the hot flashes are just caused by hormonal imbalance. Around menopause, there's a lot of changes. The ovaries stop working, and the hormonal changes lead to also changes in insulin sensitivity, insulin resistance, the blood sugar control, the blood lipids control, and all these contribute to the hot flashes. And now the hot flashes are not only annoying for many women, but it turns out that these are also a sign of a higher risk of developing cardiovascular disease. A pooled analysis of data from more than 23,000 women from 6 prospective studies has shown that night sweats increase the risk of cardiovascular disease by 29%. The women who experience severe hot flashes have a high risk of cardiovascular disease by 83%. And an early onset of hot flashes earlier than when menopause comes increases the risk of cardiovascular disease by 38%. This is true not only about cardiovascular disease, but also about diabetes. The analysis from the Women's Health Initiative from more than 150,000 postmenopausal women with a mean follow-up of 13 years showed that those women who reported any hot flashes had a higher risk of developing diabetes by 13%. Those who experienced severe hot flashes had a 48% increased risk of diabetes. And early onset of hot flashes was associated with a 16% increase in diabetes rates. So all these studies just show that we need to take hot flashes seriously. It's just a sign of some dysregulation that can have far-reaching consequences. Now, is there any role of diet in hot flashes? I thank Dr. Barnard for letting me borrow some of his slides. This is from our recent paper where he's the first author, and he cites a study showing that in Japan in the 1980s, the prevalence of menopausal hot flashes was super low. Only 13.5% of the population around menopause was experiencing them, and 15.2% after menopause. Now, this is in contrast to the 75 to 80% of women in the United States. We know that the traditional diet in Japan is rich in vegetables, but also in soy foods. But the traditional Japanese diet also changed. And after the Japanese diet was westernized, what happened to hot flashes in Japan? Well, the hot flashes increased dramatically. And in the early 2000s, all of a sudden, 42% of women after menopause started reporting hot flashes. So we can see a dramatic increase after changing the diet, which raises the question, could the opposite be true as well? So if we're starting with a Western diet here in the United States, and 75 to 80% of women experience hot flashes, how about changing their diet to a plant-based diet? Would that help with hot flashes? And to answer this question, we conducted a randomized clinical trial that lasted 12 weeks, where the women were randomized into an intervention group or a control group. The intervention group was following a low-fat vegan diet and also was consuming half a cup of cooked soybeans every day. Now, the low-fat content of the diet by itself may have great benefits based on previous studies. A vegan diet, which excludes the animal products, particularly dairy, may also have some beneficial effects. And it turns out that eating soybeans and isoflavones has also been shown to be effective against hot flashes. So we combined 3 effective approaches into one intervention. We were using a phone app that's called My Luna to track the hot flashes. So the participants were just recording their hot flashes. They just simply pushed a start button when the hot flash started. And then we were getting these reports, how many of the hot flashes were mild and moderate and severe. And the end report on our end showed as all the hot flashes reported, and the green ones are the night hot flashes. So we also separated the hot flashes experienced in the day and at night. Let me share an experience from one of our research study participants, Anne, who gave me her permission to share her story with you. Anne was 52 years old when she joined the study, and she has been experiencing her hot flashes for 2 years, and they were really bothering her. Her weight was 293 pounds, and she just decided to give this a try and make a dietary change. During the 12 weeks of a vegan diet, she lost 27 pounds. and her hot flashes almost disappeared. Definitely the severe ones were just gone. So when she used to just feel a severe hot flash, now she would just like get warm and she wasn't even sure if this was a hot flash. So a huge improvement in her quality of life, and especially her sleep improved, because you can imagine these hot flashes can sometimes wake you up and just disrupt your sleep. So if you can sleep through the night, that's a huge improvement in your quality of life. And these are the findings from the overall study that was published in the Journal of Menopause. Dr. Barnard is the first author. The whole team co-authored the paper, and he also let me borrow these slides. So the diet group reduced the body weight by 7.7 pounds. There was also the control group didn't change the body weight in any significant way. So 7.7 pounds on average, that of course means a huge variation. So in Anne's story, it was 27 pounds, but some women were not overweight to start with, so they didn't need to lose weight. The total number of hot flashes was reduced significantly in the intervention group, but you can see that also the control group improved quite a bit, although not as much as the intervention group. Since we started the study at the end of the summer and we're going into the cooler weather, the question was it because of the weather change? And that's why we decided to run another replication of the study, and we will have some answers for you in one of the next sessions. When we looked at moderate to severe hot flashes, the reduction was just dramatic by 84% in the intervention group. Now, the percentage of women reporting any moderate to severe hot flashes was reduced in the intervention group. At the beginning, all of the women were experiencing some moderate to severe hot flashes. After 12 weeks, only 41% of them still experienced them. In the control group, there was no change. We also tracked the quality of life using the MenQual questionnaire. This questionnaire is scored, and the more annoying the symptoms, the higher the score. So the better your quality of life, the lower the score in each of these areas. So vasomotor is the area that's related to the hot flashes. And we can see a significant reduction in the intervention group, which means a significant improvement, and a slight improvement in the control group. In psychosocial area, it's also a significant improvement in the intervention group, and not any significant improvement in the control group, although there was a trend for improvement. In the physical domain, again, significant improvement in quality of life in the intervention group, and no significant change in the control group. And the sexual domain also, the women in the diet group reported a significant improvement compared with the control group. So these are just encouraging findings for all women around menopause and for all postmenopausal women. And many people ask, what is it about soybeans? I know about a plant-based diet. I know that a fat content can also play a role. But what is it about soybeans that could improve hot flashes? And the answer is, when we eat soybeans, this changes our gut microbiome. The isoflavones contained in soybeans, daidzein and genistein and glycine, are turned into some other metabolites, and one of them is called equal. Daisine is metabolized into equal, but it turns out that not everybody can produce this compound in their gut. Non-vegetarians, only 25% of non-vegetarians are able to produce equal, but it's a higher percentage in vegetarians, 59%. So it seems like the diet can also affect our ability and our gut microbiome's ability to produce equal. Another study from the US showed that none of the omnivores were able to produce equal compared to 40% vegans. So the diet significantly influences the ability to produce equal. And can this be changed when you start eating soybeans, when you change your diet to a low-fat vegan diet? Can this affect your ability to produce equal? The answers are still to be found, and we're looking forward to telling you more in one of the next sessions. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kahleova. Yes, menopausal symptoms can be really severe and really affect women's quality of life. So it's brilliant to hear that just a dietary change can make such a difference. So now, finally, moving on to our last panel discussion, I'm really happy to welcome back our guests from today, Dr. Hayley Tait, Dr. Saray Stancic, and Dr. Hana Kahleova, and from our previous classes, the Physicians Committee's culinary specialist, Dustin Harder. So thank you so much to all of you for coming back. So in this 6-week program, we have given people some ideas to get started on changing their diet. I'd be really interested to know what would be your top tips for helping people to maintain that change. Why don't we start with Dustin?
Yeah, first of all, this has been so great to be a part of, and thank you everyone for tuning into it every week. So fun. But I think my biggest tip is to go at your own pace, to run your own race. That's sort of like an overall, I feel like, with life, right? But particularly when it comes to making changes in your diet, some people are able to just remove everything or make some big adjustments right away, and other people need to go at their own pace and sort of trial and error and be kind to yourself as you go along and find things that you really enjoy when you're switching out food items.
Definitely. It's not if you make a slip up, that's not the end.
Just, yeah, don't beat yourself up.
Yeah, keep going. Dr. Stancic, how about you? Any suggestions?
I think those points are so important. You don't have to be perfect. Just begin and get started. And I think the benefits that you'll reap very early on will stir an interest in continuing on. I always tell patients it's always a good idea to partner up with someone and begin the journey with a friend, somebody who can support you. I think that's always beneficial. So if you can get a partner to support you on this journey, it's a beautiful journey, and it changes the quality of life of patients so dramatically. And I'm so proud that we're sharing this message so effectively, and so many people are listening to us today. How wonderful. And Dr. Kahleova, I want you to know that I went through menopause without any hot flashes. Now I know why. It's the plants.
That's fantastic. Fantastic. And I completely agree about getting some moral support. Any tips from Dr. Hayley Tait or Dr. Hana Kahleova you'd like to share?
I just think, if you think about the abundance of the good stuff, because some people always think it's restrictive, but I always say, no, it's the abundance of the really good stuff. And then the bad stuff falls away, once you taste all this delicious food and you feel so good, it's win-win, isn't it?
Completely.
And equally, yeah, Dr. Curley, thanks very much for the chat. But yeah, I stopped HRT once I had a full plant-based diet.
What a great experience, to go through menopause without any symptoms, right, Saray? This is wonderful. Yeah. This is inspiring. I have 3 recommendations for people to stay on this diet and, for the long term. The first one is find your favorite foods. So some people just like try to make so many changes, and they're like, oh, okay, if I'm on a vegan diet, that means I need to eat seaweed every single day, even though I don't like it at all. You know, as much as it's good to experiment with different foods, and as much as seaweed is excellent if you like it, if it's not your cup of tea, you don't need to eat it every single day. It's about finding your favorites. And we all have a few recipes that we just go to, most often. So it's about finding the favorites. Experimenting as long as it takes to find the favorites. That's number one. Number two recommendation, make it fun. Turn it also sometimes into a game with yourself. You know, how many greens can I eat today? I'm curious. And I'm sometimes just playing with my family. You know, my family is overseas, and sometimes I'm silly. I'm eating breakfast and I'm like, okay, Dad, how many oranges do you think I'm eating for breakfast right now? And it's kind of fun, you know. And my number three recommendation, share the food with your family and friends. It makes it so much more enjoyable. You know, when you have not only the support, sometimes you don't have support initially and people are skeptical about the vegan diet. But if you put in the effort, if you really prepare a delicious recipe that everyone will enjoy, they will be grateful. And it will be also a bonding experience. So these are my three recommendations.
Oh, they're great recommendations. Thank you so much. And I agree about the seaweed. I mean, I've been vegan 12 years and I've had seaweed probably twice in that time. So you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. If you don't like kale, you don't have to eat kale. You know, but are there any particular recipes that you've had in the last week that you have really enjoyed, cooked by yourself or by someone else, that would make us hungry and give us some inspiration? Let's go to our resident chef, Dr. I've just upgraded you to Doctor, even more important.
I'll take it. I actually just developed a really tasty, it'll be up there soon on our Universal Meals website, sweet and sour cauliflower that's not fried. It's all made, it's oil free. It's so delicious. It's so tasty, but that's something I made this week. So good. A healthy upgrade to that, I would say.
Sounds delicious.
I also did a cauliflower this week, Dustin, but I braised it in the oven with loads of different spices and then made like a cheesy sauce with nutritional yeast and soya milk, and and that was gorgeous as well, but covered it with loads of seeds and yummy.
Cauliflower is magic these days, I tell you.
Yeah,
and everything is delicious with nutritional yeast. That I hope that's something that people can take away as well.
I'm calling it coronation cauliflower.
Sounds great. Dr. Stancic, what's been your best meal in the last week?
Actually, cauliflower tacos.
There's a theme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Delicious.
Who knew cauliflowers were so good? They are delicious. And Dr. Kahleova, how about you?
Mine is red lentils. That's one of my most favorite foods. Just cooked in an Instapot with some seasoning, sometimes with veggies, sometimes without them, over brown rice or quinoa. You know, I just love red lentils, or red lentil soup. You know, I love red lentils in any shape and form.
Same here. Good shout. We've run out of time, but thank you so much again to everyone for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure, and we hope to have you back again soon. Take care. Okay, so unfortunately we have run out of time today. We do have a fantastic video by Chef Cola, who has appeared previously, who runs African Vegan on a Budget. So please do look at our website, the resource portal, to watch that video, because she makes a really delicious meal. And just to give you the details of our guests today, just going to share my screen. So please do check out the social media of our guests, and the websites and the documentaries and the books. There's some really useful resources there. If you haven't already joined, please do sign up for Fight Diabetes with Food. It's another completely free program to either prevent or reverse type 2 or type 1 diabetes. Not reverse type 1, but can definitely manage it. And then also, please do look at all of our promotional partners who have helped spread the word about this program, because they've really helped get the message out, and we'd love you to give them a follow as well. So that brings us to the end of our program, I'm very sad to say. I would like to say a massive thank you to everyone who has joined us over the last 6 weeks. We know how busy you all are, so it really means a lot that you've trusted us and you've given us your time to help change your diet and improve your health. I hope you found this course useful and interesting, and we would love to get your feedback. So we'll be emailing you shortly with a feedback survey. We will be really grateful if you could complete this for us, so we can find out what you liked the most, what we could work on, so we can make improvements for the next series of One Healthy World and make it even better. We found a fantastic global community here, and we're sure that this is just the beginning of the journey. Please encourage all of your friends and family to watch these 6 on-demand video classes. As we've discussed, it's so much easier to stick to healthy choices when we do it together. So until we see you next, look after yourselves, keep eating healthy and delicious meals, and take care, and goodbye.